Thank you everyone for coming back over from courtroom number 1. We took a 15-minute recess. We're going to reconvene and conduct the business of the Wayne County Commissioners in the County of Wayne. We've gone through the swearing-in ceremony from Mr. Wood. Mr. Wood, thank you. Welcome aboard. We're looking forward to and excited to have you being our county manager for a while. We need to read the resolution from the Wayne County Board of Education. Mr. Wood, if you would take care of that, please.
This is a resolution of the Board of Education of Wayne County, North Carolina, related to the leasing under an operating lease or leases of 2 new middle schools in southern Wayne County. Whereas a need exists for 2 new middle schools in the southern area of Wayne County, North Carolina, the county, as the current facilities are not adequate for the number of students in that area of the county. And whereas the Board of Education of Wayne County, North Carolina, the BOE, is considering the proposed plan, to enter into an operating lease pursuant to North Carolina General Statutes 115C-530 with First Floor Educational Facilities, LLC, parentheses, the company, pursuant to which the company at its expense will construct 2 new middle schools at net zero schools, which means they will have no cost of electricity, to be known as Spring Creek Middle School and Grantham Middle School, parentheses, the project. And whereas, according to the proposed plan, the company will arrange for a taxable financing that permits the company to take advantage of certain energy and potential new markets tax credits to apply towards the cost of the project. And whereas the project will be constructed on sites owned by the BOE, which will be leased to the company, which will construct both schools according to the terms of the operating lease agreements between the company and the BOE. And whereas, according to the proposed plan, the financing will be payable from and secured by an irrevocable operating lease between the company and the BOE, with a term to be determined, but in any event not less than 20 years, the company will provide a leasehold mortgage interest in the project to secure its financing. And whereas, under North Carolina law, the BOE must obtain consent from the county to enter into an operating lease or leases if separate for each school, parentheses, the operating lease, under General Statutes 115C-530, and if the county consents, the Board of Commissioners of the county, parentheses, the county board, is required under 115C-530 in each year to appropriate sufficient funds to meet the amounts to be paid during the fiscal year under the operating lease. And whereas, pursuant to General Statutes 115C-530, local boards of education may enter into operational leases for terms of 3 years or longer if certain conditions are met, including approval by the county and by the North Carolina Local Government Commission, parentheses, the commission. And whereas the BOE believes it is in the best interest of the BOE to pursue the operating lease which will provide for the construction of the project, and giving the BOE the use of the project which it believes will address the board's need for additional permanent middle school seats in the most efficient, timely, and cost-effective manner. And whereas the BOE has further considered the use of the design-build method of construction as recommended by the county board and does not believe that this would be the most efficient, timely, and cost-effective method for construction of the 2 new middle schools. And whereas the BOE has again reviewed the project and determined additional items that can be reduced to lower the cost of construction. Now therefore be it resolved by the Wayne County Board of Education as follows. 1. The BOE again approves proceeding with the concept presented by the proposed plan, including the use of the operating lease between the BOE and the company to provide for the construction of the project, parentheses, subject to alternates agreed to by the parties to bring the cost in line with the maximum lease payment, parentheses, and to give the BOE the use of the project. Therefore, the BOE hereby requests that the county board reconsider its action and approve proceeding with the concept as approved by the BOE. This approval is based on 1, the BOE providing a minimum amount of $5 million towards the project cost from its current funds, which shall include all costs incurred or to be incurred prior to signing of the operational lease and commencement of construction. 2, the lease payment under the operating lease being no more than $2.9 million annually, with the county board paying $700,000 of the annual payment from county funds, and the BOE paying the remaining $2.2 million from the BOE's available 1/2 cent sales tax and lottery funds available to it for capital outlay purposes. 3, the BOE will absorb the operating cost for both new schools within its annual budget. 4, receiving the required approvals by the county and the commission. And 5, agreement of the final terms of the operating lease, ground lease, and any other documents relating to the project. Section 2, the BOE further requests that the county board adopt a similar resolution approving proceeding with the project, and that the county board assist in arranging for a preliminary conference with the commission to discuss the proposed operating lease and ground lease with the secretary of the commission as required by General Statutes 150-149. This resolution was adopted and is effective as of the 21st day of February 2014. John P. Grantham, Chairman, Board of Education of Wayne County, North Carolina. This is the resolution they adopted on the 21st.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Wood.
Yes.
Mr. King.
I think you wanted to go over this debt, revised school debt affordability.
I'm sorry, Steve, I thought you raised your hand.
Scratching my nose. That's what I was talking about.
Yes, we need to go over the revised school debt affordable overview. Mr. Wood, please.
I believe all of you have a copy of this now from the clerk.
They will in just a minute.
Okay.
They will momentarily.
Okay.
Thank you.
This is a fairly straightforward analysis by Davenport using the new numbers, which I believe Commissioner Daugherty had asked that they revise based on some negotiations with the school board. If you look under column S, you'll see debt service fund balance. This is $22,772,058. That is the beginning number. That's the available balance they have. And they got that number from Pam Holt. Then if you go back to start at A on the next line, you'll see that basically what they're doing is they're showing you the debt service requirements. You'd have the $2.9 million coming in the first year. They're also showing the $5 million being paid out. That's the sum they said they would pay before the lease commences. The next item you have is you approved roughly $12 million of renovation projects. That's the $12,320,463. Then you have school pay-as-you-go, which they've committed to. And so they're showing that, and I believe that's a 2.5% increase annually that's projected on that to keep up with inflation. So what you have there is these are the debt service requirements that are revised based on what they're recommending and what you've been negotiating with them on. So those would be the totals. Then if you carry that first line over, now you get to the revenue available. You'll see the first one is general fund budget. That's the county's general fund budget. That's the $700,000 that you would be committing to. The second one is the revised sales tax. This is what they would take in. The third is the lottery dedicated to debt service or capital, and so is the sales tax. So all of these monies have to be used for school construction or debt service. So that shows them coming in on an annual basis. The total is $5,995,000. Obviously, you have two one-time costs that first year, and that's the $5 million plus the $12,320,000. So that takes it down by $17,345,887, and that leaves a balance now of $5,426,171. The rest of the years are pretty straightforward. They are identical to those in terms of where the money's coming in and going out, except for the pay-as-you-go increases. And of course, you don't have the one-time debt service payment and renovation project payments. The important thing to look at is, again, back under column S, you will see that the number never goes negative. So what they're telling you is we will have the money available to make these payments, provided that you put $700,000 a year into your general fund budget each and every year.
Any questions?
Only one question, and that is the total net tax effect. Could you point that out?
Yes, that should have pointed that out. It's zero.
Is zero.
Zero.
Let me hear that one more time.
Zero, provided we can come up with the $700,000, which we will certainly try our best to do.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anyone else? Mr. King?
Mr. Chairman, with no other questions on this analysis, I would respectfully request this time that we march forward with the resolution, if you'll allow me.
Yes, sir. Mr. King?
Mr. Chairman, fellow commissioners, and those listening, and I do want to read this resolution. I appreciate the opportunity to do so. This resolution declaring the Board of Commissioners' intention to approve arrangements for the leasing of the Wayne County Board of Education of 2 school properties to be developed by a private developer, subject to the conditions set forth within. Whereas the Wayne County Board of Education, the school board, is the local school administrative unit for the public school system located in the county of Wayne, North Carolina. Whereas the school board has determined that there is a need for 2 middle schools to be located in Grantham and Spring Creek communities. And whereas the school board has proposed that it arrange for the availability of such schools through a lease arrangement entered pursuant to General Statutes 11-5C-30 with a private developer, in here and such the developer, under an arrangement including the following general terms. 1, the school board will lease the real estate upon which the schools are to be constructed by the developer pursuant to a ground lease arrangement. Number 2, the developer will construct the school facilities on said real property and lease the constructed school properties to the school board pursuant to one or more lease arrangements, providing for aggregate annual lease payments in an amount not to exceed $2,900,000. Such lease payments to be funded from appropriations by the county and other funds made available to the school board as hereinafter described. And number 3, in order to obtain funds to construct the school facilities, the developer will enter into financing arrangements which will include a borrowing of funds by the developer to be repaid from the lease payments to be paid by the school board, including the portion of the lease payments funded by the county, pursuant to the terms of the lease. Whereas General Statute 11-5C-30 provides that any lease entered into the school board pursuant to said statute that has a term of 3 years or longer is subject to the approval of the board, and the board wishes to express its intention to approve such a lease subject to the conditions set forth within, in order that the school board may proceed with arrangements for presenting such a lease to the board. Now therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners for the County of Wayne as follows. In Section 1, the board hereby expresses its intention to approve a lease arrangement entered into by the school board with the developer for 2 new middle schools in the Grantham community and the Spring Creek community, subject to the presentation to the board of this transaction satisfactory to the board that includes, among other things, the satisfaction of the conditions set forth in the following, Section 2. At this time, I'd like to ask Mr. Chairman if you would allow me to pass this reading over to Commissioner Daugherty for the remainder of the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. Mr. Daugherty, if you would finish it, please.
Section 2, the final arrangements with the developer and the school board shall include the following conditions. Item 1, the ground lease, the lease agreement, and other agreements entered into by the school board in connection with the proposed arrangement shall be in the form and substance satisfactory to the board. 2, The term of the lease agreement shall not exceed 20 years from the date the schools are placed in service. The aggregate annual lease payments to be paid under the lease agreements that are allocable to prepayment of amounts borrowed and otherwise financed by the developer to pay the cost of the school project and the developer's arrangement for financing of the school projects, sometimes referred to as the base rent, including design and engineering cost, construction cost, cost of issuance incurred for the developer's financing, legal fees, including fees incurred by the county, financial advisory fees, including fees incurred by the county, interest during construction, recording fees, title insurance fees, required reserves, funded in the financing, and any annual administrative fees shall not exceed $2,900,000 annually. Such lease payments to be funded as described below. Item 3. Any payments under the lease agreements not included in item 2 above for operating expenses such as supplies, utility costs, maintenance, taxes, insurance, and legal fees associated with the school projects or the financing, sometimes referred to as additional rent, shall be borne by the school board. Item 4. The school board and the county shall enter into an interlocal agreement providing, among other things, that the annual aggregate payments under the lease agreements described in 2 above will be funded from $2.2 million of funds to be provided by the school board from funds legally available to the school board and set forth in the interlocal agreement, and $700,000 of additional funding to be provided by the county. The interlocal agreement shall further provide that any additional lease payments, such as additional rents for operating expenses of the school properties, and any other operational, maintenance, or staffing expense associated with the new school properties and not covered by the lease shall be borne by the school board. The interlocal agreement shall further provide that in the event the school board assumes the financing arrangements of the developer or purchases the school property from the developer as provided in item 5 below, the funding of any financing payments shall continue in the same manner. All agreements in item 5. All agreements entered into between the developer and any person providing financing to the developer shall be provided to the county and shall be subject to the approval of the county. Any offering document or other information regarding the county, its financial condition, and ability to perform its obligation under the financing arrangements shall be subject to the approval of the county. Item 6. Under the financing arrangements entered by the developer, the school board, at the direction of the county, shall have the right to assume the financing of the developer at any time after 5 years without penalty. In addition, the school board shall have an option to purchase the school property from the developer at any time without penalty after 5 years. Such option to be exercised by the school board at the direction of the county for an amount equal to the unpaid principal balance of the financing undertaken by the developer, plus any accrued or unpaid interest. Item 7. All agreements and arrangements entered into in connection with the leasing arrangement shall be subject to the approval of the local government commission to the extent required by General Statute 115C-530 and General Statute 159-153. Item 8. The county shall receive an opinion of council satisfactory to the county to the effect that the procurement of school property pursuant to the arrangement contemplated complies with provisions of Article 8 of Chapter 143 of the North Carolina General Statutes as amended. Section 3. The board hereby signifies its intention to assist the school board in arranging for the approval of the North Carolina Local Government Commission to the arrangement described herein, subject to the satisfaction of the conditions described in Section 2. Section 4. Notwithstanding any other provision of this resolution or any agreements entered into by the county in connection therewith, Nothing contained in the lease agreements or in any other agreement entered into by the county in connection with the funding described herein shall compel the county to levy taxes in order to make any payment due under the lease agreements. The lease agreement shall contain a provision to such effect. Section 5. This resolution shall take effect upon its passage. Adopted this 24th day of February 2014, signed by George Wayne Aycock Jr., Chairman of the Wayne County Board of Commissioners.
Thank you, Mr. Doherty and Mr. King. It's been written.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Doherty.
it gives me great privilege to make the motion that we adopt this resolution.
I have a motion on the floor. Any comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Parker.
Section 2, paragraph 1, talking about the last sentence, it says substance satisfactory to the board. I think you need to add of commissioners to make sure that there's no question about who's got to be satisfied.
Under advice of council, we're going to add Board of Commissioners to Section 2, Item 1. Do we need to take a vote on that, or?
No, I think if that, Commissioner Daugherty would.
I'll amend my motion to include that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Doherty. Any discussion? If no discussion, I'll show sign by right hand for favor. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, school board, for being here this morning. Anyone else have any business before we go into closed session? We do need to go into closed session for just a few minutes. Anyone else have anything?
Mr. Chairman, can we make some comments?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I didn't want y'all changing your mind.
I mean, that was a big book. Mr. King.
Mr. King first.
This is a really, really good day. Talked to one individual this morning that's on the Board of Education, and he said, we are moving forward this morning, putting all agendas aside and putting everything sort of in a box and say, guys, this is where we belong this day. Again, I appreciate this board, especially Commissioner Daugherty, who has been working on this. As I mentioned, we trust you, but if you would just trust us. Mr. Daugherty has been working on this, Commissioner Daugherty, for some time. And this board has, I guess I speak for myself, having trusted Commissioner Daugherty with moving toward the developer to do what we've done today. And I just appreciate the school board moving forward in education. This has been a good day. After 12 months, 14 months, we've accomplished so much. And I just really appreciate the board members that are here from the Board of Education and to our fellow commissioners. Thank you so much for this day. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. King.
I'd like to say, basically the same thing, that this is a landmark day for Wayne County and the Board of Education on two fronts. We've got a new interim county manager that I'm thrilled to have you with us, George, and looking forward to working with you. Plus, we got 2 new schools and some renovations ready to go. So, yes, it's a good day. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We'll come back to you, Mr. Daugherty.
Okay.
Mr. Bale.
I won't have a lot to say because I'm like Mr. Aycock. I don't want the commissioner to change their mind on this. But I am appreciative in what we've done today, and it seemed like to me that the motion that was carried forward is the same motion I made last week. Almost.
Almost.
Okay. But anyway, thank you all.
Mr. Pate.
There's a little more I can say that's not already been said, and I too want to thank Joe for working so hard on this thing, and everybody else who worked on it, because there were a lot of people working hard on this, and thank you, George, for stepping up, and, put you right in the hot seat as soon as you get here. But that's why you're getting the big bucks, right? But as been said, with this agreement, that we can move forward at both boards, because both boards have numerous challenges ahead, and it's time to focus on the future and not the past. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Camardi.
I would like to also thank Joe for the hard work that I know he's put into this, and also for folk on the other side of the aisle, the board seat, those who worked hard on that side to make sure that this came to fruition for the students of the Grantham and Spring Creek community. This is what this is about. I do appreciate everyone's help up here, but the citizens of Wayne County demands that equal opportunities for education for everyone takes place. And so I only will challenge the Board of Education today to help us to make sure that all students everywhere have the same opportunities for all education. So that's what it's about, Dr. Taylor, and appreciate you being here, and board members and Ms. Attorney. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Camardi. Mr. Doherty.
This started last Wednesday, actually. And I know this has been a long, hard trail that we've blazed here. But on Wednesday, I'll have to compliment the school board member, Chris West, and I got together and said, look, we got to find a way to get Humpty Dumpty back together. This started, this process. The two boards are set up in such a way as really to cause conflict. I don't know why they set it up that way, but they did. And there will be conflict. But maybe they'd set it up that way to make sure that the two boards would sit down and try to find what was the best interest of the citizens, the children in Wayne County, or in any county. The rub between the two boards were basically, it was maybe an appearance that this board wanted to inject itself in how you operate the schools. Trust me, we got enough problems over here. We don't want to get involved with operating schools. What our concern, of course, is to make sure that our citizens are not hit with a tax increase. Once we got beyond that, then it was kind of easy selling from there. But there are a few people I really want to point out and thank, because this took place very rapidly. Davenport, I mean, they really stepped up to the plate, worked the extra hours to put together the plan, put it in writing so that we could see that it had some financial viability. Our bonding attorney, Tom Lee, I don't think, Tom, that you've been asked to step up to the plate, because our county attorney was in a seminar. You gotta quit going to so many seminars. But you stepped up to the plate in order to create a very lengthy document, but covered all the, dotted all the I's and the T's. Our county attorney, Parker, did have, he was involved through email, but did in fact follow this all the way through. Robbie Ferris was really instrumental in making this transaction take place. So my hat's off to him. School board attorney Jack Edwards worked some extra hours, I know, and I appreciate it. Pam Holt. But the special big thank you goes to our interim county manager. He hadn't even gotten to his office yet and tackled this. We complain that government runs slowly, but this was a very fast transaction that took place, and I really give you a lot of attaboys. Today, both boards should be proud that we were able to give an extra effort to the students and reach this agreement. Our children win, the school board wins, and the taxpayers win with no tax increase. We look forward to these schools being built. I would be remiss if I did not point out and remind everybody that even with all the conflict, these two boards have been able to address and find the funds necessary to complete 5 of the 7 items on the board's CIP list. Think about that for a moment. 70% of the capital improvement plan of the school board has been accomplished in less than 40 days. Just does state that once we set our mind to something, we can get it taken care of. This is no small feat, and I want to thank all of my commissioner boards, the school board, and everybody concerned of this great accomplishment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Daugherty. I just have a few short comments. As many of you know, I took a few days off, left Thursday morning, and I left the county in the hands of the other 6 commissioners, and I want to commend all of them. I mean, they kept me posted on what was going on. Mr. King, Mr. Daugherty, the rest of the board, Mr. Parker, Mr. Wood. I know there was a whole lot of work that went on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I want to commend y'all, commend the school board for your input. But I think that this is probably as great a day for Wayne County as we've had in a long time. Like Mr. Daugherty said, we've accomplished 3 renovations and 2 new schools in a short period of time. And I just want to let the people in the community at Spring Creek, and especially Grantham. Grantham has been so tolerant for many, many years. They started asking for a new school several years ago. The school board purchased the land, and it's just been used for farmland for several years now. But they're finally getting their new school. And I just want to thank everyone that was involved in putting it together. Dr. Taylor, would you like to say just a few words?
And I hope I won't get emotional. This is a wonderful day for Wayne County and for our students. I want to thank all of you. You know, all this talk that we've heard in the past about the 2 boards don't get along. You know, it's okay to have a difference of opinion. That's all it is. It's not that we don't get along. It's just that we have a difference of opinion. But when you compromise, then you don't get everything you want, but you get hopefully most of what you want. And see, here it's not about us anyway. It's about the kids. That's what it's about. And I think through all these months and years, you mentioned months, it's really been years for us, because I've been here 14 years as superintendent, and these projects have been on the books for, but the last time we revised that was in 2007, and actually we had the plan before that, but the plan that we're working from right now was developed in 2007. This is 2013, 14 school year. So I want you to know how much, on behalf of the Board of Education, we appreciate your efforts and working with us, trying to reach a compromise that we all could live with. I understand your dilemma not wanting to raise taxes. We feel the same pain. But I think you understand that our board has been more than willing to use every dime we had in the bank to get these projects accomplished. These renovation projects that you approved a few weeks ago, thank you. Mr. Barwick and I met with the architect last week, discussed those to try to get started on those. The next 2 big projects, obviously, were the Grantham and Spring Creek projects. And now we've been able to have a meeting of the minds. And I tell you what I really like about this is it's a 7-0 vote. It wasn't 4-3, it wasn't 5-2, it wasn't 6-1. It was 7-0. And I want you to know how much we appreciate that, because that says we're all on the same song sheet here. And I promise you, we're going to live up to our commitment. Let me apologize for Mr. Ferris not being here today. He wanted to be here. But he called me about 8:30, said, I'm sick as I can be. And I think probably with all the hard work and hours he has put into this, that's probably what brought him back. But he said, I'm watching it. He's watching it, because I called just a few minutes before I got in. In fact, I apologize for being a few minutes late, but we thought it was going to be around 10 o'clock. And I called him. He said, they're talking about it now. I said, let me get up there right now and see what's going on. But I can't tell you how excited we are about putting a shovel in the ground and getting some work done. These communities have waited for these schools a long time. And now they're going to come to fruition. And how proud we all will be the day we open up and we have our ceremony, whatever we call that, to invite the public in, and certainly to thank all of you for your efforts. We know that it is a strange relationship, Mr. Daugherty. The way the state has set it up, that's just the way it is. And it seems to lend itself to an adversarial role, but I don't view it that way. I view it as just sometimes a difference of opinion. But when you have that, you've got to have people that's willing to come to the table and to try to put aside their differences and try to reach compromise. And we've done that today, and we've done it in a big way. Now, Mr. Wood, you must be pretty good. I mean, you've been here one day. Well, I'm looking forward to this. If we get this done on the first day, what can we get done tomorrow? You know? So in any event, I want to thank Ms. Barber. She has worked very hard on this. I mean, she's crunched numbers a million times. And you can't get this done without good finance officer, Ms. Holt, and we appreciate all her efforts. I want to thank, obviously, our board attorney too, for all his long hours. And of course, beyond all that, I want to thank our Board of Education has worked tirelessly and diligently to get this done, because they all wanted to try to fulfill what the commitment that they had made to these communities all these years. And now it's going to come to fruition. Y'all might force me to retire now. I kind of want to see this stuff through before I got out the door. And thank God today we have got this accomplished. And so we can all leave smiling at one another. Again, we're not mad at each other. We never have been. It's just trying to reach compromise, and now we've been able to do that. And we've done it in a way that you don't have to raise taxes. We will try to absorb that operational cost, and I think that we can do that. And we can keep the payment where it needs to be. And we thank you for your contribution to that payment. That means a lot. We'd asked before and didn't get much response, but this time it worked out. So we appreciate that. So I apologize for taking these minutes, but I can't hardly contain my excitement today. I can't tell you how happy I am. If I could run and jump over this building, I would do that today, because that's how excited I am. We got a lot of things coming up, of course, with the General Assembly. You never know what's going to happen with that deal. But I think that obviously we have to work together with our partners. And certainly you are our partner in this process and everything that we do. And now we can hold hands together as we walk and see these schools built and as they start to come up. And I think you can feel the pride in the community as those parents and those students walking through that building. There's no question that when you have a updated facility and a new facility, kids take pride in it, the parents take pride in it, the community takes pride in it. And we've been able to get most of what we wanted in this deal, and we appreciate that. And now I think you're happy on your side, and we are ecstatic on our side. So thank you so much for whatever conversations you had, whether it was text or telephone or around this table, whatever had to be done. And I think we were all, see, the thing is, we're all about the same thing here. It's about doing what's best for children. And that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. And we can do that with these newer facilities. So we appreciate your efforts. We know we got some other things, the other items obviously on that list that down the road we're going to have to tackle. But today is a great day and a wonderful day for Wayne County. So from the bottom of my heart, and I can tell you from the bottom of the heart of our Board of Education members and the staff of the Wayne County Public Schools, thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. I think it'd only be appropriate also, we do have two of the school board members here today. Mr. West or Mr. Flowers, would either one of y'all like to make a short comment?
I'd like to speak for the my district, the Spring Creek. Thank you for this new school. Spring Creek Elementary and Spring Creek High School, both of those schools are currently somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 students over capacity. When this new school was built and we moved those children into it, I think we're building this school for 750, so we're not going to have a lot of capacity left to bring the schools back down. The way we have alleviated that is we have at Spring Creek Elementary, I think, 20 mobile units at no small cost to that. So this is a much better plan to build a permanent building for these children. When you build a school and it's over capacity and you put mobile units, the children have a seat, but our cafeteria is the same size as it was. It's over capacity. The gym is the same size. The parking lot is the same size. So it creates a lot of problems. In the Grantham community, that school is very overcrowded. The part of those buildings are old, sick buildings environmentally. The plan is those buildings will be torn down. This was not a want. This was absolutely a need in Wayne County. And thank you so much for helping us with it and all your hard work. I do appreciate it.
Thank you. Mr. West, you.
Chairman, other board members, I just want to thank you. Number one, I'd like to express my appreciation to Mr. Doherty for the willingness he had last week to contact me, and I guess we go back to kind of a simple, common sense approach to trying to work out some differences where we all three benefit from. I think it was a win-win situation for the Wayne County Public Schools, for the county government, and for the architect as well. We all made concessions, and it was something that we all agreed upon. And I think it's been a long time coming. After all, I guess we are elected in districts, but we have the oversight of the whole county to look after. I mean, we've got responsibility from the north end, the south end, west end. It's a big county. And even though my district may be District 1, I worked really hard, and so did everybody else, trying to make this happen. I do appreciate a couple of weeks ago the renovation projects, because those things they've been a long time needed as well. We've got an overcrowding problem at ACOT that hopefully we're going to alleviate on the cafeteria. By the way, I'd still invite you guys to come up and have lunch one day at Charles B. Aycock. I think you'll see that we did the right thing by doing what we did with the renovations up there. But anyway, I would like to thank each of you. There was a lot of phone calls, a lot of meetings, and a lot of finger crossings, but it's just come to fruition, and I do want to say thank you and thank our board and our staff at Central Office for the hard work that they did, as well as you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. West. Anyone else have any comments? The rest of our board? Marshall, Mr. Parker, Mr. Wood, have we got anything else other than closed session? We need to go into closed session for a few minutes.
Not that I'm aware of.
We do need to go into closed session for a few minutes to discuss economic development.
Location of industry or business in Wayne County.
Okay. Do I have a motion that we go into closed session?
So moved.
Okay. All in favor, show of sign of right hand. Thank you.
Those requests from counties that see priorities, and the majority of the counties asked that the association champion to reinstate the lottery funds for school construction, something we've been talking about a lot over the last 3 weeks and looking at our lottery funds and projections and so forth. What happened is that the association had taken these state priorities, and they're going to be going to Washington, D.C. next week as a collaborative effort with the state, all counties together, all 100 counties, to talk about the North Carolina legislative issues, along with if they parallel any of the national or the federal priorities that the Association of Counties have, which will be all of the counties in the United States will be attending this legislative weekly convention this coming weekend and into next week. But the 5 top priorities for the state, the association itself, the number 1 priority was to reinstate the lottery funds for school construction. And of course, the opposed the shift of state transportation, these responsibilities for secondary roads. Of course, Commissioner Daugherty, being chairman of transportation, is on top of that. The third one would be to oppose unfunded mandates and shifts of state responsibilities to counties. A lot of this has to do with health care, DHHS, and with the health department and DSS. To ensure adequate mental health funding. This, of course, is done through our MCOs, which were LMEs, which is East Point, as we become more regionalized. And the 5th one is to preserve the existing local revenue base to support legislation that recognizes the importance of county revenues and ensures that the existing tax base is maintained and preserved. Of course, our county does a great job getting those percentages high and keeping that fund balance the way it should be. But the school construction, the reinstate the lottery funds on the state level, we'll be having our association meeting Sunday afternoon or Monday morning. Be having a second one on that for the commissioners that be attending. But just that at a glance, Mr. Chairman and fellow commissioners, in 2013, just a real quick update here, In 2013, the North Carolina General Assembly rewrote the state's lottery statutes, which falls under General Statute 11.5C-546.2, to eliminate the guarantee of 40% of net lottery proceeds to county school construction needs. The association is saying without the statutory reference that designates a portion of lottery proceeds to counties for school construction, the legislature could decide to appropriate all of the lottery proceeds to other educational purposes. Just a little tidbit of information, through June 2013, counties had committed or spent 93%, which is $806 million of the $870 million of lottery fund proceeds received since the lottery inception to school capital projects. Counties use the lottery proceeds to issue debt service to build new schools, as we have just seen today, and is what we're going to do with projections from Davenport and the school board, and to accumulate funds to pay for renovation and repair projects. You saw that we did with $15 million federal grant that we got. We're using lottery funds to do that. We're using lottery funds also to do the renovations that we approved a couple of weeks ago. The State Department of Public Instruction, DPI, in 2010 and 11 estimated that $8.2 billion was needed in the state of North Carolina for new schools, renovations, furnishings, equipment, land, etc. The last bullet point here is from the association is that the state's decision to permanently eliminate the corporate income tax for school construction, which is the ADM fund that we use, part of that is that to reduce the lottery appropriation by nearly half puts most of the burden on the counties, unless the state restores the statutes dedicating 40% of proceeds to counties and increase the appropriation to counties each year. That 50, 40, 10, that 40% is so important for school construction. And as you saw today, and what we did is we used an example of moving those same lottery funds year after year at the same for 20 years. And here already, the General Assembly is having to be faced with what the changes they made this past year in 13. On to the federal end, bear with me just about 2 minutes, is that the federal issues that we'll be talking about, and that's why we go, again, the association has this, and all the commissioners, we generally all attend, is that we go to get into the federal part. Here, you know about the sequestration, fellow commissioners, the budget reforms and sequestration do not result in unfunded mandates to counties. You saw about what that 25% did to us about 6 months ago. I think a part that we saw last year when we met with in particular Southern Springs about the support funding improvements for broadband access in rural areas. This is something that Secretary Decker with Commerce, Secretary of Commerce is very pro on in the state, is broadband. And as you know, internet connectivity increasingly is necessary for many political, economical, and social transactions. And we found out that Southern Springs, of course, does not have this type of access, even for economic growth in their area, that those that need the internet connectivity, especially in the rural areas, and of course Wayne County being mostly rural, you'll see in Southern Springs and some other areas. But one last thing, Mr. Chairman, that sort of parallel to what we did today is that one of the other federal issues is to maintain funding for education and workforce development. As you know, our county does a great job with workforce development. But we will seek this weekend, we will seek comprehensive legislation to maintain current levels of funding for education and workforce development programs in order to prepare students and adults to obtain and keep jobs. These programs work to increase levels of employment that will ultimately help our nation and our state and our county continue this economic recovery. And with that said, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate it. We've got a lot on our plate in this conference. They'll be discussing all these in these work sessions, and we'll be meeting with our congressmen and the legislators and our House members We'll be meeting with all those at our breakfast Wednesday morning, but we'll be having these side meetings on Tuesday that are scheduled in transportation and DHHS, Department of Health and Human Services. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. King. Anyone else have any comments?
I just have a question
Mr.
for
Bell.
Mr. King.
Yes, sir, Mr. Bell.
Since you sit on a lot of the committees and boards with the association, do
Yes,
you
sir.
think it would be appropriate if you could talk to somebody about getting North Carolina matched up with Virginia, Tennessee, and South Carolina somehow, so we can compete more when it comes to economic development?
I think one of the positives right now of what we're seeing is the regionalization. I represent the district of 12 counties with the association, District 3, and what we're hearing from Dr. Pat Mitchell with rural development, mainly everything is rural with the exception of the Greenville area, but the rural part east of 95 is a regional aspect. On the state level, working in these regions, as you know, with East Point, MCO, but now working with the other states, Governor McCrory has made it one of his primary objectives, task, to make sure that economically we work with these other states and knowing what they're doing, in particular transportation, interconnectivity, in particular our ports. Mr. Daugherty knows quite a bit about the port aspect with working with Norfolk and working with Savannah, and the logistics there that move about. So in commerce, we're seeing that we can't operate, as you know, in a silo, no longer in a as Eastern region or with these prosperity zones that the governor or Secretary of Commerce Decker has put out on these prosperity zones. But North Carolina is working, Mr. Bell, as you know, in so many areas in the regional thought process and working with other. You can't operate by yourselves anymore. You have to partnership and have that interconnectivity with the other states. Yes, sir.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, I move we adjourn.
Okay, before we act on your motion, Mr. Daugherty, I think Mr. Wood has got a 2 o'clock staff meeting scheduled, and I think Mr. Wood wants to meet, correct me if I'm wrong, he wants to meet with the staff, and we're going to let him do his job. We're not going to attend the staff meeting, just let him talk to the staff and so they can get on the same page. And also, Mr. Wood, if you have time, and if some of the commissioners or all of the commissioners have time, would you like to go to lunch at Western Sizzling?
Yeah,